Hello, friends, and welcome to 2% the podcast, where we break down the fundamental strategies used by today's leading D2C brands to learn how they grow their business by 2% every day. This show is brought to you by Caro, the #1 collaborative commerce platform for D2C's best brands. Today, I am joined by Jess Cervellon, VP of CX at Feastables. She's a D2C consultant and the host of the wildly successful Oopsie Podcast. In this episode, we talk all about customer experience and how it's evolving in the e-commerce landscape. But we don't talk about CX from the common customer support perspective that we're used to hearing about. Instead, we focus on all of the other areas that CX touches. Jess shares a ton of insight into how retention and CX are evolving together, how to use data to sound wicked smart and actually benefit your organization. Jess gave a ton of brand examples. We covered a lot of ground there. And we talk about my favorite topic, conversational SMS, and how to actually think about evolving that. And we finish by playing a bit of hypothetical, and Jess talks about how to fix common personalization issues for a few D2C brands. All of these topics and more will be covered in today's episode. And with that, I present to you, Jess Cervellon. Fresh off her trip from Europe, it is Jess Cervellon. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Blake. I am so excited to be on your new show.
It is a privilege. No, the pleasure is all mine, I should say. You were my very first guest, actually, on my previous podcast, Taika. And since we've become friends, exchanging tales from a D2C side, the good and the bad, and generally, I just learned a heck of a lot from you. I look up to you in the space with things like the Oopsie Pod and all the content you put out. So I am really excited just to have you back on and to talk all things e-com today with you.
Awesome. I just want to say for the listeners and anybody, Blake is a fucking baddie, and everybody listen to his podcast and anything that he puts out into the world.
I appreciate that. That's quite the testimony. Maybe we'll put that on a t-shirt. Honestly, Blake's a baddie. That's the first time I've heard that before. I love it. Well, let's just dive into it. I think a lot for us to cover today. You have a wealth of experience, at Feastables with the Oopsie Pod, all of your background in e-com. You're doing a lot of consulting now and working with other brands. So I know there's a lot for us to touch on, but one topic I really was wanted to dive into straight away is CX. And the rise of CX is pretty much everywhere. It seems like right now in content, you look around the e-com space, there's just like CX seems to be plastered everywhere. But somehow I think we've merged CX, customer experience, and customer service, CS. And I think CX is a hell of a lot more than just customer support. It's literally across every single piece of the e-com business, from growth, retention, data, personalization. I think the CX leader at any company is truly equipped to be like a jack of all trades, if you will. So as both, VP of CX at Feastables, one of the most well-known D2C brands, and also as a consultant and the host of, Oopsie Pod, you've connected with hundreds of merchants at this point, I would probably assume. So just tell me about your role of CX in a business. Like, how do you view like what CX actually does for a business?
Yeah. So, at Feastables, we set it up really well. And this is kind of the tradition that I've taken on to the clients that I'm consulting for. So, of course you still have support in the CX house. I feel like support does have to lay in the CX house. Ultimately, that's the tried and true, right? Sure. But support also has so many conversations with people, right? So there's a level of consumer insights that also flows into CX, right? There's also the community building aspect. And I don't just mean, going on Twitter and Instagram. There's also other places that community lives, like Discord, Slack channels, or even in referral programs, ambassador programs. That's all a part of customer experience. And then lastly, the other pillar that I always find myself in, actually, I shouldn't say lastly, but another pillar that I always find myself in is the digital marketing aspects of it. So, and what I mean by the digital marketing aspects is yes, of course, your email and your SMS, but more in the retention level for those, but really what is the consumer's experience going through your website, going through your packaging, going through consuming your brand, going through selling that product online. What is that entire consumer behavior and user behavior that they're going to go through and that falls under CX as well in my philosophy, right? And
Sure.
and not even just in my philosophy and in what I've done with Feastables, but also in like clients that I've been doing like consulting and fractional leadership for, when I strategize and when I'm coming in, and whether it's a revamp or a brand new aspect, I'm ensuring that these pillars do fall within CX, because I think it's such an important thing to emphasize about what your consumer's experience is through all of these different channels and touch points.
100%. There's so much to dive in off that. I love that answer.
I
No, but I think you're spot on. You know, the insights, the communities, the retention, it's all the things that fall into that. Like you're taking in so much, but also like I think able to impact a lot of that. Maybe let's just double tap on some of those as we kind of go through. So starting with insights, you know, like what sort of like data or insights fascinates you the most, and you know what kind of dashboards or things do you find yourself looking at the most?
Yeah, really, I am a nerd about consumer behavior. So I mean, when I talk about consumer behavior, like, yes, of course, like I want to know, all right, is there engagement in like this photo, or is there engagement in, you know, this email or this click-through rate? Like, yeah, I care about all of those things, but really what I care about is what is the customer thinking of our product? So whether it's like this water bottle or it's a consumable product, like what do they love about it? What do they love about the taste, the quality of it, right? And so like what I'm diving into on like insights isn't just like going out and doing the market research. It's really like, what are our customers saying today? What are our customers saying today after they've received that product, after they've had that experience with our product? That's like one of my favorite touch points that I'm constantly trying to dive into, feedback loop into like the rest of the organizations, because I think what the customer is saying, what the customer is feeling and wanting about your product is so important to bleed back into supply chain, bleed back into product development, marketing, like all these other areas of your organization. So I mean, like, so from an insights level, you know, it's really what, like, after they've tried it, what comes back, not necessarily the market research of like the placement of it. Like we've already done the placement of it, right? Like at that point, we've already done like your product placement, and now it's like, how do I further develop that product to be even further? And you have to listen to your customer, and you have to understand those feedback loops.
100%. Feedback loops, super, super important. On the Tyca Pod, I had a lot of conversations around feedback loops, like this cross kind of departmental collaboration of retention, of CX, of, you know, paid media, all these things that come in. I think it's really fascinating too that, like, you know, you sort of have like the insight of, you know, obviously you've talked about like the product level and all those things that, you know, are more kind of fundamental, but like then actually like as the business grows, as the business evolves, as things go out into the world, like there is this kind of hub that kind of happens. And like, when you think about like bubbling up stuff to the rest of the org, like any other CX leader listening, like what kind of advice might you offer to like make sure that they are most heard, but also to like, you know, are able to like just, you know, look as smart as possible and some of those things as well?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that I always tell anybody that I'm mentoring or helping out, like on, you know, just leveling up their CX, is always that data speaks louder than words. You can't just come to somebody and just say like, hey, Blake, we're seeing a bunch of returns on this, you know, t-shirt, right? Like, okay, a bunch of returns means what to me, right? Like, why are you seeing those returns? What are people saying about it? So, and I don't think, I'm going to get some slack for this one. I don't necessarily think you need a tool for everything. I really don't. Like, I think sometimes you got to be a little scrappy and like go into your Google Sheets and your Excel and, you know, do your sequels and build your formulas. And like one of the things that I always give to a brand or just anybody I'm mentoring, or even in like, you know, Feastables, is I build out like it's a CX qualitative dashboard. So basically what it is like this Google sheet that I've like put together. I'm taking all the CSATs, I'm taking all the NPS, I'm diving in deep into like promoters, neutrals, detractors. I'm looking at all the product reviews, and I'm summing all these things up, and I'm gathering all these data, these data points. And then when I'm going back to somebody in the org and I'm saying like, hey, we're getting a lot of returns on this t-shirt, and they ask me the why, I can dive deeper into it and say like, oh, well, the why is because maybe it's too small, or we're having a lot of issues with it like first wash, or people don't really like the fit of it, right? Like I'm coming to the table with a data point. And I think it's like, you can't just, like when you're trying to feedback loop into the org, like I know I'm giving you like what I do, but like the one thing I have to say is like, you have to come to the table with a data point. You can't just come to the table with like words on a screen, because that's not actionable.
Exactly. It's quantitative over qualitative in some ways. And like, you definitely learn from like, you know, some of that qualitative stuff, but being able to actually back it and bring that data to the conversation. I just think like, I think that this is a theme I've had in a lot of conversations recently, is like, I think anyone who knows how to use data and then actually like bring it to the table and elaborate on it and kind of quantify that value, like that's a really dangerous person, like in a good way. I think is like, it's just, it opens up so many doors for you to kind of be, I think, working more cross-departmentally, but then actually like being able to kind of take that impact to the business, help everyone understand even too. I think that's one other thing that I've learned, you know, even from my D2C days, is not everyone speaks the same language, and you have to find ways to get everyone on that same page.
Right. Right. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's not even just like data. It's like any cross-functionally work that you're doing. Not everybody has the same types of behaviors or digests the same type of information the way you do. Right. So even like a step further, right? Like thinking about it like the data points to bring it to the table to like be able to action it. But even when you're like talking to your customer and you're trying to teach your customer in like a help center doc, I think you should be like speaking to that customer as you're giving them the written form, you're giving them a visual form, and maybe you're even giving them a video form, because every person is a different type of learner. So it's like, I know it's like a little bit tangent, but my point is every person is a different type of learner.
Totally. Yeah, and that's it's really important to kind of take that into consideration. It's a really fascinating topic for me. I think like this idea of like, you hear a lot of like bubbling up insights, but then like, how do you actually like take it to the next level and make yourself, you know, just a heck of a lot smarter, I think, through being able to deliver that to the org as well, which is like a hack, if you will, I think, of getting, you know, just getting further along in your career. As you grow, you need to be able to kind of like communicate effectively.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, the last thing is like, one of the biggest things that like I've been doing lately is actually these CX boot camps. So it's just like, you know, a couple of weeks here and there where I'm spending time with like the CX manager, the CX lead, and like getting them to level up. And the first thing that I always level these individuals up with is like, what are you doing for feedback loop, and how are you coming to the table? How do we get you a seat at the table? So, and you can speak, you know, about what's actually going on and people actually listening to you.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that you do that. I think it's a huge thing that I you know, just respect about what you're doing, and also bringing a voice to the CX kind of community, but also just the e-com community in general. I think that's the larger kind of picture of it too. I want to transition over to retention, another pillar that you mentioned. We can talk about maybe the intersection of CX and retention, but I also know, because you're doing so much consulting and also speaking with so many people, about like your view of retention is, you know, so much broader, I think, in some ways. But maybe talk to me about like some of how you view like this intersection of CX and retention.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I could give you like the very generic answer of like, you know, it cultivates long-term relationships, you know, and maximizes your customer lifetime value. But ultimately, retention and CX, these two players, two org players, right? Like whatever that team looks like, you know, whatnot. They're doing the same actions, just in different types of capacities. And what I mean by that is like, so CX is, you know, out there community building, out there doing like the supporting and talking to the customers, and retention team members are out there, you know, doing marketing campaigns, thinking of like ideas to get your customer to continue coming back, right? They have to be intersected together, because you're literally building that relationship with your customer, and you cannot be separate. Like they have to be best friends. Like my best friend at Feastables is Joseph, and we always joke about it online and like all these other places. But the reason is because we feel so strongly about the experience of the customer that we have to be best friends at work and outside of work, because we mentally think about the same exact things, right? Totally. So even like on like a more tactical level, I mean, like, think about it. Like, I just sat here and I talked about like all these feedback loops, right? That feedback loop that CX is getting, retention is also getting that feedback loop too, right? So it's like, that's another intersection level where like those teams need to be teamed up and talking about the same exact things to then push the product to getting like the repeat purchasers and, you know, building loyalty. I think it's really important to think about it in that aspect. Like, I think what's an interesting thing is that retention always falls under marketing, and either CX is its own org or it falls somewhere in the org under operations, under marketing, all these other places, right? But I think that they need to actually be together, whether that's like best friends at work or that's like in the same organization together, because they're literally going at the same pace and they're building the same exact things just on two different planes. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. You stole the words out of my mouth. That was one of my next questions. No, I love it. You're taking the conversation ahead. Great minds think alike. I think that was my question. Yeah, is like, should the CX leader head up retention strategy? Do you think the retention and CX leaders should kind of sit at the same level, or do you think it's more of like retention still reports to the e-com director or CMO or something like that? Or is there even a right answer, honestly?
I don't think there's a right answer. And the reason I don't think there's a right answer is because every org has a different type of philosophy or a different viewpoint. In my world, like, you know, at Feastables, retention and CX, like CX is its own org in its entirety. And then retention sits under marketing, right? Mm-hmm. But then in companies that like I've, you know, helped out or like friends that I even have, like Eli has CX and retention, right? But in other orgs, you know, it's CX and retention are under marketing. Like it's just, my point is that it's like, it just varies. Like, I don't think there's a right answer to it. I think in my perfect world, and going back to like the intersection question, is in my perfect world and how I would build an org is I would, as VP of CX, I would actually have retention being a part of CX, because, and it's not like, oh, like being greedy and like taking it all to the table. I've seen so many times where marketers aren't talking to CX, like they're not talking to CX. And I think retention should fall under CX. So that way, like there's always a bridge and a gap between the marketers, but like a piece of that marketing is sitting with CX. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. Yeah.
I just rambled.
No. It makes total sense. Like I think back to the days when I was on the D2C side and like learning, it was my first job out of college and trying to like learn that industry, but also like I became best friends with the CX team as soon as I could, because I just realized that like that alignment of retention marketing and CX, like it helped me just like learn the business a heck of a lot faster, but also to being able to ask the right questions, like infer like what data actually matters, how to do all these things. So I just get really fascinated. Like it's a point where I geek out around like the intersection of these two, but also to like how much overlap there kind of is, and like are kind of like jobs to be done, if you will.
Yeah. And, you know, this is kind of veering into a different direction. This is like more about leadership and mentoring, but like, you know, as I like build out teams, like, and, you know, help others, whatever it is, I'm always like, the individuals that I'm leading, I always teach them the same retention tactics. I give them an understanding of like what these like marketing flows look like, these like whether it's email, SMS, and like give them like a deep dive into like what that looks like, because I feel like a natural progression is like somebody who's either in like the support side, the community side, digital marketing side of CX. Like I feel like you could make a transition into retention or lifecycle marketing, and I think it's just really important. I just think it's really important to take along your junior CX players on the retention marketing path, because I think it opens up a wide variety of opportunities for them.
Totally. Yeah. I think I've talked to some folks, who are starting off in CX, and they're like, I don't know if this is the career ladder that I want to be on, like long term, like, but I'm learning so much about the business. Like I'm thinking about where else I could go, or even just grow into where you kind of like learn a little bit more about. I think that it's a great call out. I think when you think about like that career development and something like, customer experience, like where that can go. It's I think it's definitely, as a leader, kind of stuff that is really important to also kind of communicate, is like helping your team grow and hit their goals and what they also are, capable, I think, of doing as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, one of the last pillars before we get a little more macro and talk about some of your awesome consulting stuff, I wanted to talk about was personalization. And again, another buzzwordy topic. I feel like I'm just hitting on all the buzzwords today, but I want to know, like, what does personalization actually mean to you? And like, are there some cool examples that you could maybe talk to?
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, personalization to me is very much like, I want my customer to feel special. I want them to feel special at every single one of their touch points that they have. So whether that's like a human interaction in support, or that's, a personalized website offer or personalized like email, I want them to feel so special. Like, we're thinking about them. We're like, hey, Blake, hey, Jess. And it's, about like what their actual likes are like. And I think, yeah, we could talk about like segmenting, and we could talk about all these like little things that you can do, and these tips and tricks. But I think that I have a really good example of like something that happened to me recently, and that like made me really think about personalization and like that experience of your customer. And it was actually when I was in Milan. I went to the Gucci store and I bought myself a nice little gift, right? And I walked into the store. And like, I got my personal shopper, and I was like, oh, great. Like, I'm going to have my personal shopper. I just want to shop in peace over here. Okay. Sure. And I had the idea of the bag that I wanted, but I ended up not buying that bag. And the reason I didn't buy that bag that I wanted and bought something else is because I had this personalized shopping experience. Like, the guy asked me my name. He like started talking to my boyfriend that was with me. He like started relating to me, like, talking to me about like, oh, what are you doing in Milan? Like, all these things to where I was so enamored and like loved the experience. And I was like, I don't give a fuck what I'm buying. Take my money, take all my money. And I walked out with this purse that wasn't even what I went in for. It was something else. And it's beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong, I like love the purse. But my point is, though, is I was more likely to purchase from this guy who spent the time actually getting to know me, actually understanding why I was in Milan, like what my likes were, than I just went into like a regular store and was just like, I'm here to buy a bag, and like you don't even like ask me a question, right? Mm-hmm. So like taking that story and back to your personalization is like, your customers are going to be more likely to purchase from you if you're actually getting to know them, or if you're actually personalizing like what it is that you're talking to them about. So like, there's a lot of tools out there. I mean, like, you can utilize AI in your website to like, personalize like upsells and cross sells and all these things, right? But it's like spending the time and being really thoughtful about thinking through all the touch points of your customer and where you can utilize a tool, or you can be scrappy and you can like actually personalize that experience, that people are more likely to be loyal and purchase from you, which we get.
1,000%. Well, I love that you embrace the salesman at the store, because I'm the person who runs away from that, and I don't like to be talked to. I want to shop in peace. But it shows. I mean, like, they break down that barrier, but then they also like, you just kind of feel like more assured of like what you're buying. Like, they're recommending things that you might like or that you haven't thought about. At Attentive and even at Tone, like two conversational like SMS companies, like, we used to peddle and people never believed us, but like the stat that people spent, like, I think it was like 31% more when they had like conversational like engagement with a brand. And while there was a lot of variance in things, it really proved that like, when you looked at the conversations that people were having, it was like answering questions, being thoughtful, like thinking about things that, they weren't even considering, or being like, I think, to take words out of your mouth, like 1,000 steps ahead, or I think whatever, you said. Yeah. I think it's just like, a very like great example of how personalization can be done right. But one of my follow-up questions is, everyone talks about scaling relationships, all the buzzwords, all that stuff, but like tactically doing that in a way that a customer wants to engage, like, how do you break down some of those barriers to make a customer just feel like they want to have that interaction with the brand, and they're not running away from you as that kind of salesperson, if you will?
Yeah, so I think this is going to skip ahead to like actually one of your other questions, but one of like my tactics that I absolutely love to do to build that relationship is SMS marketing and creating two-way conversations in that SMS marketing. And I mean, like, also you could apply that theory to email. I mean, like Joseph has done like some really dope things with like email and like, you know, click this button 500 times and like they want to engage, like making it fun. You're gamifying it, right? So, I mean, like you could apply it to email for sure. But one of the things that I love so much and I'm so passionate about and like is SMS marketing, but like building two-way conversations. Because if you like send out a message and you're like, hey, how are you today? And it's like from your favorite brand, or even not even your favorite brand, a brand that you just purchased from, you're going to be like, what the fuck? Yeah, I'm going to respond to that, right?
Sure.
And you're building a relationship. You're building a relationship that's not based on a BOGO sale or, you know, go here and buy this like 30% off or doing all these things. You're literally just building a two-way conversation with your customer around why they want to purchase it. You're giving your brand a personality that's outside of the website, that's like sitting in the palm of that person's hand. And I'm not saying like, okay, it has to be, hi, how are you? Gamify it, right? Like even make a game out of it. One of the things that I can't think of the brand's name, and I always forget, and I always ask my old CSM at Postscript what it is. But there's this SMS campaign that I really loved. It's like a t-shirt company, and they built a haunted house. And they built a haunted house, and it's like, oh, press 1 if you want to go down this door. Press 2 if you want to go through the window, right? And it builds out like this entire pathway where you're just like engaging with the customer, and it's fun. There's content related to it. And then, there was a discount behind it. But my point is though, you're building that two-way conversation. You're building something really fun that the customer wants to interact with. Yeah. And then second brand that I also think does a really good job at this is We're Not Really Strangers. They have, they're more in email now, but they had pre-pandemic, they had this amazing SMS stuff. And they still do every once in a while. Like they'll send out email or messages that's like, hi, how are you? Or, you know, don't go back to your ex-boyfriend. Like, I know you're thinking about it, right? But really like personal things, but it's so a part of their brand ethos because their brand ethos or their brand is all related to these like very personalized games where you're playing with your partner or you're playing with a friend to like get to know them on a deeper level. So that even plays into like their SMS and email campaigns too. Yeah. I rambled a lot.
No. This speaks to my two-way SMS loving heart. I think like I know, from just the time that I've spent, in the SMS space, but also to like getting to kind of get my hands on my technology, like when it was just starting to kind of become more market available with like Postscript and Attentive and all these platforms, I was like, oh shit, this is about to change, how SMS is viewed, but also too like how like it fits into like a relationship strategy for a D2C brand. It's just like it opened the doors to like so many things. And I think you're right. Like some of those things like vibe checks, making it fun, gamifying it, like all this stuff that you can do. I remember like the first client that I was consulting for in SMS a couple of years back, they were like terrified to spend any money outside of just like a campaign. They're like, we put in, this, we expect this back. We don't want to spend a single penny on any conversational text. And I'm like, well, actually, it pays to have some of those back and forth engagements and like taking the time to like not view your customer as like, a dollar amount, but as like a person, and having that kind of like engagement can make sure when you have to knock on that door to ask for something, like they're like, hell yeah, like I'll buy that because I love the brand, they feel like that they know me, all the things that I just think like conversational SMS done right is just like one of the biggest growth hacks, I think, for retention marketers.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think retention marketers, and I even think like, even on an acquisition level, like, and here's why, because like at Feastables, we have a ton of people who sign up with that haven't actually purchased, right? But then they're going to be more likely to purchase from us if we're not just a chocolate brand and we're making it about like giving them a piece of Jimmy. And so it's like, yes, I understand like you've already acquired their number, but maybe haven't converted them is my point, And it's like, I think if you double down on that and it's not even just about like necessarily segmenting, it's maybe even doing these two-way conversations to your entire list, then who knows what could happen, It's just like, be a part of I would love to see like Quip, right? Quip, the toothbrushes. I don't know why Quip is the first brand to my brain right now, but Shout out to Quip again. We shout them out on my pod. I would love to see Quip is just such a funny brand because it's this electric toothbrush, right? That's really popular. But I would love to see maybe even a toothbrush brand like Quip just sending out weird SMS marketing campaigns about did you brush your teeth today? Did you floss it today? Here's a dentist tip. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Creating conversation. I feel like it's something that tactically can be done with so many brands.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think it's rethinking what's possible on a channel like SMS and changing your perception of you need to be within the tone of your brand, think about how your customers would react to that. But just I think anyone can play in conversational SMS. I just think you kind of have to think about it and maybe a little bit of a different lens than traditional marketing has been taught to think about how you should engage with the customer.
Absolutely. And I'm granted this is going to go into one of your other questions, but I see so many brands doing this all the time. And I'm my dudes and gals, come on. Pick up your phone and treat your customers like they're your besties, right? Have a conversation with them. And there's also so many other fun hacks you could do. We talk about data, put a fucking survey in. Put a survey in it, put a survey in it, and then there you go. Now you have now you're gathering data about your customer because you're creating a two-way conversation. Yes. But I've seen so many brands just afraid to do it, just so afraid.
It's they're standing at the pool watching all the people jump in and having a blast, and they just kind of don't want to join the party for whatever reason, and that's why it also pays to just kind of think about the vendor that you might work with as well and what they're kind of helping you. I know the PostScript guys have done a really good job, I think, of educating people around two-way and conversational. I just think there's just so much that can be done, I think, but I still think there's really early innings for conversational, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah I think there's so much to be done. Sorry audience, last point that I want to make too is that I also think that all of the players PostScript, Attentive, I don't know, One Text, whatever, there's so many out there, I don't know. PostScript's my favorite. But I think, so I built this at Feastables. I built a chatbot to have two-way conversations, right? Listen, I'm not saying it is the best thing on this planet because it's very scrapped together and hacked together. But I think if some of these companies also double down on that chatbot experience, right, within their platform, more people will be more likely to do the two-way conversations. And some players have I can't speak to Attentive because I've only really worked on Attentive from a. I know they have a two-way conversation thing and it's a human behind it, but sure. I wish that we could see more automation and more of a layer even on AI within those platforms itself.
Totally. And I think it's where it's headed. I definitely think, it's the idea that it's matured kind of thing yet I think is too early to say, but I think you look at the players PostScript, the Attentives of the world, they're definitely leading that conversational charge. And I think it's gonna be interesting to see where AI kind of intersects, where the CX team kind of stuff kind of comes into play and them handling stuff through help desk versus what an outsourced team might do with what both those platforms are now doing. There's just so much to unpack, I think, within the SMS space.
I know that's a whole other episode.
Totally.
Welcome to Caro, where the world's top brands and creators come together to sell each other's products through cross-store selling. You can join Caro as an online retailer, product supplier, or both. As a retailer or creator, you can sell other amazing products on your online store, allowing you to quickly expand your catalog and increase your average order value, all without the upfront costs of investment in new inventory. You simply sell more product and collect a profit. As a supplier, Caro opens up an entirely new sales channel, making your products available to be sold on thousands of other top brands and top creators' stores. Orders are sent right to their Shopify order queue, making fulfillment super easy. You're always in control as a supplier, choosing what products to make available to the network, what retailers you work with, and the margin that works best for your business. It's the biggest no-brainer in the history of e-commerce. There are literally thousands of brands and creators. Our team is ready to help you find a perfect pairing to your brand. What are you waiting for? Join Caro and start selling more together.
Well, I think I wanted to ask one more hypothetical. You mentioned Quip. I love that example. Shout out to the toothbrush company there. But I wanted to also understand, like, if you were to play, hypothetical as a consultant for a D2C brand and thinking about some like personalization strategies. You mentioned a lot of great examples already, but I'll let you pick a brand if there's maybe like a wish list brand and then like one or two cool personalization things that you would maybe implement for them.
Man, I feel like I might throw this brand under the bus. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never consulted for them. I just want to put this out there, but I'm going to take this as like a story time for a second. Okay. I don't feel like I want to throw this brand under the bus. So I'm going to just describe what it is. Okay. Is that okay?
We'll anonymize them. Totally.
Yeah. There is a supplement brand out there that really just got me on those Instagram ads, man. And I was so excited about their content and all this stuff. And I went out and like, I purchased their product. And I purchased their products based off of like this quiz, and it told me to add all these things in my cart and all these things. And I got all the things, and I immediately signed up for subscription. Right. But I didn't get to try any of it. Fine. Not a big deal. I was about that hype. I love that. So anyway, I purchased the product, and there was like a product in it that I just really didn't love, and I just really wanted to change it out, but there was no easy way to change it out. Right. Like, and honestly, I just kind of forgot about it, and they were counting on me to forget about it. So then, I get an email saying like my subscription is sending. I go and like, I email them and I say, hey, like I want to change out this product. I didn't really like it. And like, I'm still hyped for this brand. And like, so the CX person at 2:00 in the morning, like she was like, we can't change it because it's already been shipped. And I was like, ma'am, sir, it is 2 a.m. and I know this product is not shipped. Okay. Like totally. Straight up. I know it is not shipped. Anyway, so I'm going back and forth, whatever. Don't change it out. We're waiting until the next day. Conversation gets escalated. All these things. Product ends up getting shipped. Never going to change it out. I have this really terrible experience. I'm going to be honest with you. A terrible experience, right? And I completely never even used that product again. I literally threw it in the trash. I have an unopened box of it in my closet because I had such a terrible experience. That is the brand that I would like to start over. So not just on the CX point of view, like coming from like a retention and a personalization level, right? Like I'm telling you guys this story because I got these very generic emails about my subscription. I didn't have an easy way to like go and like fix my subscription, right? And I know this sounds very service related, but like go out there, get the stay.ai and emphasize your time into building out a dope subscription program that's so self-service, like that your customers don't necessarily need to talk to a CX person. They can like take care of it at 2:00 in the morning, but also, you could build that experience to be so where you're building loyalty, and then you can still like add your upsells and you can add your cross sells and you can do all these beautiful things in the subscription program, but you're not doing that today. You know what I mean? Like it's all service related. And it's very friction, but you have this beautiful content, which is dope, but you're not thinking about the actual like e-com strategy and how to retain your customers when you're driving all of your customers to go and purchase this subscription.
Totally.
So that's one brand.
It's an amazing use case and story because I think it's like they've got this killer e-com funnel. They brought you down, they quizzed you. You were like, hell yeah, let's sign me up. You bought all the products and you're so excited. And then like one snafu like that can just break the chain and then that's it. And all the money, the time, everything that went into acquiring you as a customer because of something that could have been avoided. I think of like, I show them all the time, but like one of my favorite subscription brands is Manscaped because they just have this portal where I can swap products in and out. I bring things in, I bring them in. Like it's just so seamless. But then too, like they just get all the fundamentals right, reminding me when it's shipping, when it's shipped. I can change things out. If there's issues, they've never, given me a problem. It's just like, I don't know. I think it's a missed opportunity from like a personalization standpoint also too, to like, even when I chat in with them, they're bringing up like past orders and talking about stuff. And like, that's really cool. I'm like, okay, like it's not hard. I think it just takes a little bit of like intent behind like keeping a customer retained.
Exactly. And I know that's like one thing that we're talking about, and we're talking about this one subscription program. Like I don't want to like I think the strategy of acquiring me is like great, but it's like you're not thinking about the retention of it. And I think there's so many brands out there that do such dope experiences and subscriptions that like exactly what you're saying, like Manscaped, right? Like you have this portal and you have this personalization and like your CX and like you have this personalization like website, like they do dope stuff. Like Manscaped does very dope personalization. Shout out to my boy Ben and my boy Jason, because those my two homies, they came over to Feastables but they were both from Manscaped, and Jason actually built that subscription program like from the ground up. So like my point is like they thought Manscaped, like you like it so much and like all of those things because they thought about it very methodically about what is the customer's experience going to be when going through a very heavy and rich subscription brand, right? Mm-hmm. They've thought about all the touch points. And so exactly, like hypothetically, for this brand that is going to go unnamed, I would be rethinking their subscription program in the same way that Manscaped thinks about it, or in the same way of like valuing your subscription users as the most high value people as possible and thinking about every one of their touch points that they have.
Couldn't agree more. Very well said. I think mic drop, we're done. I couldn't let you get away with asking just one more question to you before we actually go into our final segment. But this last question, you've been doing a lot of consulting. You have the Oopsie Pod. You talk to so many, DTC brands and folks that are doing cool shit in the space. Like, what do you think, like, if you had to say like one theme of like, where everyone seems to maybe be like, maybe like either struggling or doing well, I'll let you pick. I just kind of want to know, like, you have such a pulse on the space right now.
Dude. Okay. Two brands that I like that have my heart right now, Taste Salud, everybody check them out, and Equip Foods. So two points. Taste Salud, they, and listen, I see like a lot of other brands doing this too, but like this is very tactical for somebody who's not like whatever. Anyway, so Taste Salud, like what I really like about them is they're so content rich. So they say like one of the biggest e-com growth hacks, right, is create FOMO. To create FOMO. But what they're doubling down on is creating FOMO through content rich, like emails, SMS, website, everything. Every little detail of their brand is all content heavy. And I think it's something that, and I get it, and like everybody's like trying really hard to like go and like build, content. And I think it seems very daunting, but even if you just do even if you got your people in marketing just making TikToks, right? Like not that they're like their whole job, but like give them the power to go make a simple TikTok, right? And there you go. You have content, right? Yep. And that's what this brand is like doing. Like they're doubling down on content, but they're not just making it so like, there's definitely like production value that's like being put into some things, but they're also really doubling down on that UGC that's created amongst the team and delivering it in like these really exceptional brand standards. So every person like, could go and like make a TikTok and it could be in like Salud's like brand standards. And then all of a sudden it ends up on like the website or it ends up on Instagram, right? Like you don't like, they're just thinking about it in like so many different ways rather than just being like, okay, I got to go book the place to go do the things, it's like you double down on not just like your UGC, but also double down on like the content that your employees are so excited to make for your brand.
Yes.
And then, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I love that. I was going to say, because I think it's like that is, even as like parallels to like, I think about like on like the B2B SaaS side, when I'm thinking about content and like what resonates well, it's like you sometimes like the best stuff comes from just like being scrappy or thinking a little bit more like, what can we do as a team that's going to be authentic and have like high brand standards?
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't need to pay as much as you kind of think you need to create awesome content.
Yeah. It's literally taking that like UGC concept and like just doubling down on it. And so, and lastly, like Equip Foods, Sorry. They also the same thing, like if you go, if you sign up for their email list, like a lot of their content is like UGC heavy, or thinking about like creating recipes and doing with their products and like doing all of these really like things that makes it really not just creating the FOMO, but creating the accessibility for their customer and like putting that into like content rich. I know I'm like keep saying content rich, but like content rich content.
Yeah,
so that's my point, you know?
I love it. I think it's really well said. I think those two examples, Taste Salud and Equip Foods, I think check out both those brands. I think those are great. I'm going to go look afterwards. I've actually haven't heard, but I definitely will. Awesome. Okay. This has been a blast, Jess. I actually just want to do one last segment with you. It's 2 minutes. I did this with Joseph. I'm going to do it with you as my second guinea pig, and we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock, and we are going to try to get through as many D2C questions as we can on a couple topics. So sound good?
Ready.
Okay. All right. I will press start. Who is a must follow on D2C Twitter that not enough people are following right now?
David Baker. His name is Data David ATX. My homie, love him. CMO for Beekman 1800 skincare brand. Also Kate from Bridge, and my bestie ecom_Joseph.
All three fantastic examples. Love it. If you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to everyone in the world, what would it be and why?
Hug your customer experience team.
Amen to that. What is the best or one of the best, most worthwhile investments that you've made in your career?
Yeah, this is more of like personal career stuff, but like I wanted to double down on like my executive leadership stuff, presence, career. And I hired an executive leadership coach. And I've been going to her for like over a year, and it has been like one of the best things ever. So, I mean, like, even if you can't get a coach, like one of my big suggestions is like, read the books, do the resources, listen to the podcast, and like really double down on resources to learn about any subject that it is that you want to learn.
Totally. Stay hungry, but be a sponge for knowledge, I think, for sure. Mm-hmm. Give me 2 D2C brands that should form a partnership or a collaboration.
God, this one's kind of hard. I couldn't think of it. Shoot.
Wanna pass?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on that one.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
What brand do you derive the most inspiration from?
We're Not Really Strangers. Because, you know, I'm an SMS marketing nerd. Like, my biggest thing, my whole thing when I started getting into SMS was built on We're Not Really Strangers. Like, they're just fucking dope, man. Like, their whole like build audience building and understanding their customer, and it's really a niche product, right? But like, they are doing really well, and they're just really awesome at like talking to their customer and understanding their customer.
Huge shout out to them. Yeah, I'll link on the show notes to them as well. That's definitely a brand I think is awesome. Well, we went over a little bit on time, but that's okay because it was all really good stuff. Thank you for being my second guinea pig on that. We write the rules as we go here on 2%. Yeah. So we don't have any house rules here. But Jess, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for, just sharing so much information. I know we bounced around a lot here, but I think we covered a ton of ground and uncovered some really interesting, I think, themes. Where can folks go to get in touch with you? You're doing a lot of awesome stuff. So want to give you the floor. Like, where should everyone go to do all the things?
Yeah, so you can find me at jesscervellon.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm also on MentorPass, and soon I will be on The Starters.
Amazing. All really cool stuff. Well, Jess, I'm wishing you all the best. You're welcome back on the show anytime. This has been a blast, and I can't wait to see what the rest of Q3 and Q4 look like for you.
Thanks, dog. Wait, and to the audience, everybody should share 2% pod to their grandma and their best friend. Make your dog listen to it, because Blake is the fucking baddie.
I appreciate that. We're going to put that on a t-shirt at some point when we do a merch drop. And also listen to Oopsie Pod, because it's my favorite D2C pod right now, and just so much cool stuff every week. And I love what you guys are doing. You and Zoe are awesome pod hosts, and I'm really, really stoked to see the shows just grow so much. The new setup looks fantastic, by the way.
Thanks, doggy. We took a cue from your book.
Well, you definitely outdid me. All right, I'll let you go, Jess. We'll talk to you both soon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching today's episode. I hope you got 2% better for watching. And if you haven't already, consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel so you never miss another episode. We have a variety of e-com topics to talk about this season that's going to get you 2% better each week across a variety of topics. Also, if you want exclusive content not covered in these episodes that's super tactical, head over to getcaro.com/podcast. You'll find full episode recaps, transcripts, and so much more content that we don't have time to cover in these episodes. Lastly, if you want to continue on the journey right now, I encourage you to do so. I will link to another episode right here. You can take advantage of that. Click just right there, and that'll take you to that episode. And with that, I'll see you next week on 2% the podcast.